And hello.
Hello again.
We've teleported to a new place.
Right?
Where are we?
This is my office. Welcome to my office.
It's like the Bat Cave.
Oh, yeah. You know, I like the superheroes, but I'm not Batman. I am the Green Lantern.
Green Lantern.
Hello. So I decided to keep this on since we are kind of talking about superheroes, real superheroes. I say so much. I need to work on that. We want to talk briefly about relics. There's a very long tradition, ancient tradition from the very beginning of Christianity of what we call relics, which are, well, depends on the class that they are, right? They can be, first class relics, which are an actual part of the body of the person,
Of a saint.
the saint, not just any person. A second class relic, which is something that touched actually the body of the saint.
That one's third.
Some way.
Second class is there something that belonged to them or clothing?
Oh, so that's what I was going with.
Yeah.
But isn't the third class that which touches
A holy object. Oh, so something that they used in their lifetime. That's what you're saying.
Okay. Yes. So do we need to reward it again?
And then
you rewarded.
And then third class is something after the fact of their death, after they're canonized. You touch your rosary, you touch a crucifix to a first class relic that makes something a third class relic. And already something that's already sacramental, you can't make your iPhone a sacramental by touching it to a relic. Something that's already holy. So what you were saying that I misinterpreted is something that the saint used throughout their life, right?
Yes.
But
it's not part of their body.
Correct.
Right. So, and we have some relics in our parish. There was a little box with a glass cover in the chapel that it's now the Adoration Chapel here in our parish. And the relics that we had in the parish that belonged to the parish were all in there in this little reliquaries, and I thought, because they are so important in the tradition of the church, why don't we give them a more prominent place and show more reverence to them, if you will? And so we decided to get better reliquaries for them, and soon we will display them in a more prominent way in the parish for everyone to venerate in some way.
It's beautiful. One of the things, relics, especially all the relics that we have here right now, they're sitting up there. They come from this old tradition where in Christian persecution, when those who sought to celebrate the Divine Liturgy, the Holy Mass, and were persecuted and killed for being Christian, professing the name of Christ, they'd be killed by the Roman government for the first 300 years of Christianity, essentially. And then the Christian communities would gather. And sometimes they'd gather where the person was buried. And in those days, right, oftentimes it wasn't just graveyards like we think of today, it was sarcophagi. Sarcophagus is a kind of an above ground burial chamber. Mm-hmm. And so, but the Christians would gather, right? So they have to gather secretly. So they'd gather at night. So oftentimes it would be like Saturday night, like the vigil of the resurrection as we celebrate Easter Vigil, the vigil of the first day of the week. And they would gather in these underground, what are they called in Rome? Catacombs. In the catacombs. And so the actual place where they're buried is below ground, but they're in tunnels. And so to the person who's walking in there, they're not below ground. They're right at kind of waist level, which makes a perfect altar, practically speaking, right?
Right.
And so they would begin to celebrate the divine liturgy. They begin to celebrate Mass over the sarcophagi of those who gave their lives for Christ, which is where we get this really particular tradition of having relics embedded in our altar, of having a part of the saint with us as we pray, reminding us where we're going, reminding us both that we give our life for Christ in a white-robed martyrdom, the daily entrusting of our life to Jesus, in a red-robed martyrdom, if he calls us that way, in the giving of our life, the shedding of blood, but then that we're also directed towards heaven.
What a beautiful tradition that is, since I mentioned recently how the altar is a symbol of Christ, and having the relics right there is how, in the same way that he describes that he is the tree and we are the branches, we put the saints in there because they have been incorporated to Christ. So I just find that connection beautiful and so appropriate with what the Lord says. So I just want to mention a couple of the relics that we have. We have more, and I don't want to mention them all, but I don't even know the names of them all, but we have them back there. Some of the ones that are close to my heart, I should say. Of course, we have a relic of the Holy Cross, which is a very much valued relic throughout the entire church in the whole world. And that's the most prominent on the very top back there. And then we have like Saint Rita of Cassia. We have one that Father Daniel loves. Which one is that?
Saint Andrew.
Crazy hair. Yes, Saint Andrew. Father Daniel possesses one that was given to him. That's at the house. Saint Philomena, another beautiful, great martyr, example of all women and example of how the church venerates women and gives women the respect and recognizes their virtue, their valor, their heart, giving to Christ so readily and even from such a young age. So
it's important to know, even with those that died right in the Roman canon, there's like a list of men and then there's a list of women, and that for they who died and gave their life for Christ, there was no differentiation among the saints of male or female, or that for some reason a male relic might be more worthy, more valuable. That's never even been a thought in Catholicism, even though you have some relics that come from popes and priests and bishops.
Right.
But a relic is a relic is a relic, and a relic points to heaven and the call of Christ. And so there's just a total men and women are caught up in the love of God. And I think that's really important to underline in today's age, where a lot of people look at the hierarchy of the church, that it's made up of men, and then they see that as we are misogynistic, we oppress women or anything like that. But the call of Christ for all is sanctity, and there's different ways to live that out. And church hierarchy, unless it's your call, your way to seek out sanctity is to follow the call of Christ, right?
Right. So let's see, what else can we say about the relics of the saints? I've said it before that it's important to always have present in front of us the reality that exists spiritually, because that we can't see and we perceive with our senses. That's why it's important to have the saints around us. And the candles on the side altars, since the candles, we light not always, but most of the time, for those who have gone before us, who may be still in purgatory. That is one part of the church. And then if we have the relics in the church, that is the saints, those that we call the triumphant part of the church, those that already are with Christ forever. And then we who are on our way, in our pilgrim way, still striving, praying for the souls in purgatory, and asking for the help of those that are already with Christ.
And we're called the church militant because we fight for the kingdom of heaven. And it's not just kind of fighting like we need to oppose governments, we need to oppose whatever. Most of the time our battle is against Satan, the world, the flesh, and the devil, essentially, right? And it's self-mastery for the sake and love of Christ through his grace and our will. And so that's partly why we are fighting for heaven. I think right now with, the floating of conspiracy theories and the internet, right, we're taking on this term of church militant that is losing the spiritual battle that's at hand. And we're saying, this political party is oppressing the church and this whatever. And our battle is for virtue and grace, come whatever. And people who lose their gaze on Christ are they that are not fighting as God calls them. Remember, Jesus tells Peter, put away the sword. And this is hours before he's to give his life, which makes no earthly sense whatsoever. But if we engage the spiritual battle, if we follow him in death, the entrustment of our life, then we are truly the church militant that he set up.
I think the trap is this: since we live more in the world and on the senses, that's why many people will fight here. But think of how much more important the spiritual battle is. If we win the spiritual battle, the rest of the worldly battles will be won by Christ. So we have to make sure that we are fighting the right battles and not engage in those that we are not called to engage in.
Do you want to tell us about that cool chapel in Rome?
Yes, except I don't know the name of it. During my sabbatical, when I spend time in Rome, because the Lord is going to make it that I can make it to Rome, even though right now Europe is closed, it will open somehow. There is a chapel that is made with the bones of Christians. And so it's made up of tons of relics. And I am very interested by this. I guess I wasn't as interested before because since there's a lot of skulls in it, I was kind of shunning it because I thought maybe it's a little freaky.
Put the creep factor on you.
Right? Yeah. I need to pray a bit more about it before I go in so that I can actually have a prayerful experience. I didn't want to go there out of curiosity. That's not why we should visit any church. And so now I am ready. And one of the main reasons why I'm ready is because of this treasure that we have at St. John the Baptist. When I came, I didn't bring any relics, by the way. They were all here. So I came and encountered all these relics of the saints, and they're close to my heart. Some people have been asking, what happened to the relics that were in the chapel and things like that. And so I want you to know, if you're one of them, I didn't want to just take them away from you. I actually want to... Let me put it this way. When a pastor comes to a parish, he should strive to build upon that which the previous pastors have already built, instead of just sitting there and doing nothing and just letting things go by.
This is the way we've always done it.
Exactly.
The anthem of a dying church.
Yeah, we can't afford that. And so that's our goal, to always build upon it. And so that's one of the things that I'm doing, a little element with the relics. So that's my goal.
So there's a surprise forthcoming.
There is a surprise forthcoming. You gave a hint a few a few, what is this called? Not a class. Catechesis ago, and it's coming to reality. So, and a couple people have stepped up to help with what you asked for, and hopefully a couple more people will step up, and I think it'll be beautiful.
So by stepping up, they should send you an email and say, Father, how can I help?
Yeah.
That'd be great.
That'd be great.
I think we should show them, we should pause here, just do a brief span of the relics, and then show them the altar stone, and then that'll wrap things up really nicely.
Okay. You know, I've never seen the altar stone. I've never lifted up the altar cloth.
That's fun.
Good.
We do it at altar server training.
Awesome.
So here we are. We have some of our relics, and so you can see the relic of the true cross, which you'll be able to see upcoming. We have St. Philip Neri. We have St. Francis Xavier. And you can see that this is acting like a monstrance, something to showcase it. And then inside, there's an encapsulated, I don't even know what that would be called, a smaller reliquary. It probably has a more technical name. Here's St. Rita. But to show you on the back, it is sealed with the one who sealed it. So it's that way no one can get in there and stick like the bone of an animal or any other kind of imposter. And it's sealed with a specifically identifiable seal. And then you can see the red going around it. And so if anyone has any relics and it doesn't have that seal, or the seal is broken, it would need to be sent in to a specific place that would do some verification, some historical work. And so each of these relics, as you can see, it has its own system so as to preserve this faith and this tradition from anything that would take away from it. Bing.
Hello.
Here we are. So
Wow.
It's after Masses.
Magic.
And here we are up at the altar. And you can see we're getting done with the day. But here we have, this is the altar stone. Now, in here, just like you saw the small little relics in the office, there's one implanted right here. And this is a 13...
You're not getting the little circle.
There we go. So there's one implanted right there. This is a 13 by 13 inch stone, which I actually have no idea why it is. You'd think it'd be 12 by 12, but I'm sure there's a specific reason.
Yes.
Or maybe it's in centimeters because they're European.
No, it's 12 by 12.
This?
So it's 12 by 12 plus me. We ought to insert ourselves in here.
Nice.
Okay?
I like that.
Okay. Let's go with that.
So then there's 5 crosses. And this is all altar stones. And almost every altar that I've ever seen has this little indentation. So you can see under, right, we have an altar cloth on top of which we put purificators and corporals for the precious blood, for the precious body. And then, wow, this has not been lifted up in a long time. But then you can see that this standardized altar stone, in which is a relic, gets placed in the altar.
Let's place it back in place.
And then, over that, we place the altar cloths again. And then we have the altar as normal. So again, this is representing the sarcophagi, the burial places of the saints, over which the masses used to be celebrated. And then when Christianity was legalized, they had ways of kind of standardizing this. I'm sure they just made a bunch of relics, and then made a bunch of reliquaries, and then made a bunch of altar stones, and made altars that had the same cutout, so that you could kind of interchange them, I guess.
So why, if from the very beginning of Christianity there were relics, why don't we have relics of Jesus? Why don't we have relics of Mary?
The resurrection and the assumption.
Yes.
Resurrection, ascension, assumption. Yeah, beautiful. So that's a great gift. A little something that you probably didn't know. You can bring it up at your next Catholic cocktail party and
There
just
you go.
wow them. Oh, five crosses symbolizing the 5 wounds of Jesus. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The wound in his side thrust in the spear. And so there's a Jerusalem cross that symbolizes that as well. But we're always up here at the altar remembering the passion, death, and resurrection of our Lord and his 5 wounds in which he bled his precious blood for us. So really cool stuff. This was a great field trip.
Yeah, and thanks for showing St. Joseph, who doesn't get a lot of press because our Blessed Mother is always in Mass, and he's on the other side, and he's just so beautiful and always praying for us.
And that does necessitate mention. A lot of people are like, why are you on the one side of the altar now, right? But that's, for you live streaming at home, that's so that we've been able to have both the Blessed Mother and the tabernacle in the background so that your viewing experience is more elevated by Mary's intercession and so that you could just be closer connected to some of the important elements of the sanctuary.
Right?
Cool.
Right. We love you.
Bye.